Imagine waking up one morning to find out your homeowners association is trying to cut off your water at your own cabin. That's exactly what happened to me. But what they didn't realize was I controlled the entire plumbing line for their neighborhood. And when they came after me, I turned the tables in a way they'll never forget. You won't believe what my HOA tried to pull on me. That's how this all started. I was sitting on my porch, sipping my morning coffee with my golden retriever at my feet, staring out at the calm lake behind my cabin. Life was simple, peaceful, until the homeowners association decided they were going to make it their mission to ruin it. See, I'd always had a rocky relationship with the HOA. I didn't exactly fit in with their rules, their gossip, and their obsession with power. But things went nuclear the day they told me, "We're cutting off your water supply." Why? Because I refused to pay their ridiculous new lakefront usage fee. They wanted thousands of dollars just so I could fish, swim, or even look at the lake that my cabin was already built beside. I told them it was absurd. They told me I'd regret it. And within a week, they actually tried to cut me off from running water in my own home. What they didn't know, what they couldn't have imagined, is that the plumbing lines of this entire HOA neighborhood, they ran right through my land. And that meant I wasn't just in control of my water. I was in control of theirs. Now, HOAs don't play fair. They thrive on intimidation. First came the nasty letters, bright red violations, taped to my cabin door. Then came the surprise inspections. HOA board members walking around my property, snapping photos like they were building a case against me. One morning, I walked outside to find 3 board members waiting on my lawn. They were dressed sharp, clipboards in hand, acting like they were the law. One of them, the president, said in the most condescending tone possible, "Since you refuse to comply, your water will be shut off this week. You'll need to consider moving back to the city." I laughed right in her face. Not because it was funny, but because I knew something they didn't. The water main that fed their entire subdivision, it ran directly beneath my land. When the original developer built this area decades ago, they cut a deal with my grandfather, used the land for pipes in exchange for lifetime free access for the cabin. I had the documents to prove it. So while they thought they had the upper hand, the reality was the exact opposite. Still, I decided not to play my card just yet. I let them dig their own hole deeper. If the HOA had stopped with their threats, maybe things would have cooled down, but they pushed harder, much harder. One evening, I heard the sound of engines outside. I stepped onto my porch and saw a utility truck, an HOA member directing workers to start digging near my water meter. They were actually trying to shut me off. That was the breaking point. I walked out, documents in hand, and told them to stop immediately. Of course, the president of the HOA puffed up and snapped, "You have no authority here. This is HOA property." That's when I pulled out the paperwork. A signed legal agreement showing that the water lines, the easement, and the control valves all cross my land. And as long as that was true, I had every right to access and deny access to anyone else. They froze. The workers didn't want to get involved in a legal mess, so they packed up and left. But the HOA president, she was furious. She screamed at me, promised lawsuits, even said, "Say goodbye to your lake," as if she could somehow take it away from me. What she didn't realize was she had just declared war on the one guy who controlled the very thing her entire neighborhood needed. The next morning, I decided to end this game once and for all. I called up a plumber friend of mine and had him install a secondary shutoff valve, one that I could control on the line that passed through my property. If the HOA thought they could bully me by threatening water access, I'd show them what it really felt like to live without water. Now, let me be clear. I didn't want to punish innocent neighbors. Most of them had no idea what the board was doing, so I didn't shut off the whole system. Instead, I restricted water flow just enough that pressure dropped in the HOA president's house. Showers trickled, faucets sputtered, sprinklers stopped working. It wasn't long before she came storming back to my cabin, this time with a police officer in tow. She tried to accuse me of sabotage and tampering with utilities, but when I showed the officer the legal easement documents, it was game over. The cop told her, flat out, "Ma'am, this man has every right to control the lines on his property. This is a civil matter, not criminal. She was livid. Cameras were even there. Turns out she had called a local news crew hoping to shame me on TV. But instead, she was the one who ended up looking like a fool on camera, screaming while I sat calmly on my porch with coffee in hand. Of course, the HOA didn't just roll over. They actually filed a lawsuit against me, claiming I was endangering community. But once again, the paperwork spoke louder than their threats. In court, my lawyer laid everything out. The original easement agreement signed by the developer, proof that the HOA had no authority over my cabin or my water supply, evidence of their harassment, intimidation, and attempted illegal shutoff. The judge didn't need long to decide. He ruled in my favor, granting me full control of the water lines and ordering the HOA to pay all legal fees. To make things even sweeter, the judge issued an injunction preventing them from ever trying to interfere with my utilities again. When the verdict came down, I looked over at the HOA president. She was fuming, red-faced, grinding her teeth, and that's when I couldn't resist leaning over and whispering, "See you in court?" Looks like I already did. From that day forward, the HOA never bothered me again. My water flowed free. My lake remained mine to enjoy, and every time I sat on my porch with my dog at my feet, I smiled knowing that sometimes, just sometimes, the little guy really does win. And that's the story of how my HOA tried to cut off my water, only to discover I controlled theirs. If you take anything from this, let it be this. Don't let people or organizations bully you just because they think they have power. Sometimes, standing your ground and knowing your rights is all it takes to flip the script completely. So, what do you think? Did I go too far by restricting their water pressure, or did they deserve it for trying to push me out of my own cabin? And that's how the HOA tried to take away my water, but ended up learning I controlled theirs the whole time. Sometimes the biggest victories come from simply knowing your rights and standing your ground. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more crazy real-life battles, and let me know in the comments. Do you think I went too far, or did the HOA get exactly what they deserved? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.